know how wonderfully you have interpreted my dream.
Mary McLeod Bethune. This is a series of podcasts about one of the great heroines of the 20th century in Mary McLeod Bethune. Her story is remarkable, for she was one that was born in 1875, 10 years after the abolishment of slavery. Podcast number 2, From Dump to Destiny. Lucy Craft Laney. Through Laney's efforts, Haynes Normal Institute School, a school primarily for girls, was chartered in 1886 by the state of Georgia. She honed her educational philosophy under the tutelage of Lucy Craft Laney in establishing Georgia's first black public school. Even more so, Laney's outreach to the community, particularly her assistance in establishing a city hospital in Augusta, impressed Bethune. When one of her pupils suffered acute appendicitis and the local hospital refused by law to admit, quote, colored patients, Bethune established the McLeod Hospital in 1911 to serve her students and the Negro community. In 1895, Booker T. Washington made a speech before the Atlanta Cotton States and International Exposition that became one of the most famous speeches in American history. The speech, some 30 years after the abolishment of slavery and the Civil War, was designed to showcase the economic progress of the South for the Negroes since the Civil War. Washington, a conservative black leader, gave the address before a predominantly white audience. Upon arrival in Daytona, Bethune had a dream. Like dreams before, this time she was crossing a river. This time it was the Halifax River. She had already reached the farther bank. She still did not know how she was to accomplish her mission. Getting there was one thing, but how were her aspirations to be turned into reality? There came galloping toward her a big man in a uniform on a big horse. He threw down the reins and the stately horse stood still. "Who are you?" asked the man. "I am Mary McLeod Bethune." "Why are you sitting here?" "I'm trying to think how I'm going to build my school." The man on the horse said, "I am Booker T. Washington." And he pulled out of his pocket a soiled handkerchief, which he had been using to wipe his brow because he had been riding so hard. From the handkerchief came a large diamond. He handed it to her, saying, "This is for you with which to build your school." Then he galloped off again. Initially, Mary McLeod Bethune was greatly influenced by Washington's educational philosophy. In 1912, Washington paid a visit to Bethune's school and spoke to students, the black community, and wealthy winter tourists. Unfortunately, Washington passed in 1915. Today, as a tribute to Washington, Bethune-Cookman's logo expresses the philosophy of educating the head, the heart, and the hand. Calling upon moneyed persons for support had become one of her major projects. Some members of her adult classes were working as gardeners or caretakers on the Daytona Beach estates across from Halifax River and would give the names. The servants would, in turn, give her name to their white employers and tell about her school so that they would know what she was talking about when she approached them. Bicycling was in the 1900s a popular sport, but it was also a practical means of transportation. She had been walking a long time. By paying so much a week, she bought a second-hand bicycle. This expedited matters considerably. She could reach many more people much more quickly. Foremost among those whom she sought was James M. Gamble of Procter & Gamble, Cincinnati, Ohio. He had a winter residence just over the South Bridge. She wrote a note to Mr. Gamble asking whether she might call upon him, and he replied that he would see her at 1 o'clock the following day. She announced herself, "I am Mary McLeod Bethune." "Oh, you're the one who wrote me about your school. I thought you were a white woman. Won't you come in?" "I'm not coming to you for money, Mr. Gamble, but to ask for your personal interest in the work I have in my mind to do, that my children should be educated in a school, properly organized and equipped for them. Mr. Gamble, I'm asking you to be a trustee." Mr. Gamble was impressed by Bethune's power of persuasion, impressed enough to say, "I'll at least come over and see what you're doing. I have Wednesday afternoon free. Will that be all right?" With the date set, Mrs. Bethune invited a few other representative men who she hoped would become members of her board. She had been able to accomplish the impossible. Bethune proceeded with the meeting. "I've asked you gentlemen here for a special reason, to establish a board of trustees." Mr. Gamble was the first to announce, "I'll be on the board. I accept that trust." All accepted the trusteeships, and 3, the position she had allocated to them: Mr. Gamble, chairman; Mr. Thompson, treasurer; the Reverend James, secretary. After the first organizational meeting, Mrs. Bethune made the final payment on Hell's Hole and immediately took her board to view the site. Here is where we are to build.